my BloodBank database system. Here I create the main tables, which are blood bank, donor, and patient. For the IDs, I use the auto increment tool, and I also use the index as the IDs. Here in the blood bank, they just record the units for each blood type. Here the donor, it used the foreign key for reference the blood bank ID, which can be in a hospital or just a blood bank. Here the patient also used the donor ID, who donated the blood for this patient, and the transfusion table records the patient, the donor, and which blood bank the transfusion happened. Here I'm just inserting dummy values for the 3 different tables. And here for the transfusion table, I have to make sure that the blood group are the same for the donor and also for the patient. Here are the results for the transfusion table. Checking values inserted for blood bank, donor, patient, transfusion. Here I'm using join tables. First, join patient and check donor medical report here. And then the second one's join donor and blood bank tables and select all the other columns. Donor and blood bank name. Here I'm join donor and blood bank tables using the group by, which is also a requirement for the project. Here you go. Here I'm joining 3 different tables, the patient, the donor, and the blood bank name. Patient, donor, and blood bank. Here are the indexes, another requirement. Here I'm checking the donation ID with the donor ID from the transfusion table and from the donor table. Transfusion here, and then the donor here, donor ID, and blood bank ID. Here I'm doing another one, trying to find the donor ID from the transfusion where the patient donor ID is 9. So patient ID is 9, the donor ID is 9, the transfusion ID is 9. This is just a coincidence of the way it was inserted the data. Find all the donations for blood bank ID number 9. So we have 2 here for this blood bank ID 9. Here are the queries. Here in this query I'm using the name of the donor blood group with O positive and patient blood group with O positive. Here all their names and the blood group and the type. Here patient, donor. Here the disease that they have and the blood bank name. Here I'm just doing a simple query, just counting the amount of patients with anemia. Triggers and update. Here I'm deleting cascade from the before deleting the blood bank. So here, to make this work, I first had to delete from the transfusion table, and then after that I can delete for the blood bank, and you can say that cascade and here show as none, so it does work. We do not delete the blood bank ID because it's an index, so we cannot delete an index and be substitute for another number. That is not possible. Blood bank transfusion checks for blood type before inserting values. So here's the trigger, and here what we are trying to do. We are inserting this data, but it's not allowing because blood types of donor and patient do not match, and so the transfusion is denied. Here's a similar trigger, but now with the medical condition. So except if has anemia, which is a common condition for someone who needs blood. So this does not count anemia, it's neutral, but any other conditions, if both have different conditions, it's denied. So here, transfusion denied. Patient and donor have both medical conditions. So one had asthma and the other is not, has leukemia here, so it's not possible. Multiple tables, donor and blood bank. So here I'm inserting the values. Here's a creation, and here's the final result. Here is a good example of how a system will be used. No names, no anything related directly to the patients, just the numbers. So the donor, the blood bank here. Transfusion table. Here's patient, blood bank, but I did not did an example for this one. Thank you.